The cryopod's display read 1247 years, 3 months, and 16 days. Commander Marcus Webb stared at the number, then at the woman suspended in frozen blue light behind the frost-covered glass. Her skin was pale silver, almost luminescent, and delicate ridges traced from her temples down to her jawline like carved moonstone. "She's alive," Dr. Chen whispered, her breath fogging in the cold salvage bay. "Vitals are stable. Whoever built this pod knew what they were doing." Marcus stepped back from the alien vessel they'd towed into the U's harbinger. The ship had been drifting at the edge of the Kepler expanse, no power signature, no distress beacon, just dead metal tumbling through the void. His salvage team had expected cargo, maybe old tech worth selling. Not this. "Can you wake her?" he asked. "I can. Question is, should we?" Marcus had spent 23 years in the Coalition Navy. He'd fought in the Proxima campaign, survived the siege of New Helsinki, lost more friends than he cared to count. He was tired, the kind of tired that lived in your bones and made every morning feel like a negotiation with death. The last thing he needed was a complication. But he looked at her face through the glass. Peaceful, vulnerable. 1,000 years of sleep, while the universe moved on without her. Wake her up. The thawing process took 6 hours. Marcus stayed the entire time, watching the ice recede from her pod like morning frost, melting under a reluctant sun. His crew came and went, curious, then bored, then hungry. But he remained. When her eyes finally opened, they were the color of deep amber, warm and ancient and utterly lost. She spoke first, words he didn't understand. Her voice cracked from centuries of disuse. The translation software churned for almost a minute before rendering her question in flat, mechanical English. "How long?" "A long time," Marcus said carefully. "Over 1,000 years." She closed her eyes. A single tear traced down her silver cheek, and when she opened them again, something had changed. The confusion was still there, but underneath it lay something harder. Acceptance. The kind that came from loss so profound it simply became part of you. "My name is Velith," she said. "I am the last daughter of the Saren Imperium." Marcus had never heard of the Saren Imperium. Neither had the ship's database. "Commander Marcus Webb," he replied. "You're aboard a human vessel. We found your ship drifting. No power, no beacon. We didn't know anyone was aboard." "My people?" She tried to sit up, winced, fell back. "My world." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. She read it in his silence. Over the following days, Velith learned what Marcus couldn't bring himself to say directly. The Saren Imperium had fallen 900 years ago, destroyed by a plague that swept through their worlds within a single generation. Archaeological records spoke of beautiful cities, advanced technology, a civilization that had spanned 12 systems. All gone now. Dust and ruins and academic footnotes. She was alone. The last of her kind. Coalition Command wanted her brought to Earth for study. The scientific community was losing its collective mind, a living Saren, the first and likely last anyone would ever see. Politicians argued about custody. Corporations smelled profit. Everyone had plans for her. Marcus received his orders on a Tuesday morning. Deliver the alien subject to Geneva Station for processing. He found Velith in the observation deck, staring at the stars like she was trying to find something familiar among them. "They want me to hand you over," he said, standing beside her but not too close. "Scientists, diplomats, they have questions." "And what do you want?" The question caught him off guard. No one had asked him what he wanted in years. Decades, maybe. He was a tool of the Coalition. Point and shoot, follow orders, don't think too much. "I want to finish my tour and retire to somewhere quiet," he said honestly. "Maybe a moon with a lake. I've always wanted to try fishing. That sounds peaceful. It does. She turned to face him. Even weakened, even lost, there was a dignity to her that made him straighten unconsciously. I have nowhere to go, Commander. My home is dust. My people are memories. I am a relic from a dead empire, and your governments will study me like an interesting specimen until I die of their curiosity. That's probably accurate. Then I ask you for something, not as a subject to a commander, but as one lost soul to another. She met his eyes. Let me stay. On this ship. With you. Why? Until I find my footing in this strange new universe. Marcus thought about the paperwork, the political nightmare, the questions from command about why he was harboring an alien refugee. I'm not a good man, he said. I've killed people. Lots of them. I follow orders I don't agree with because it's easier than thinking. I drink too much and sleep too little, and I'm not kind. I'm not asking for kindness. I'm asking for honesty. She smiled, and it was the saddest thing he'd ever seen. You haven't lied to me once since I woke up. Do you know how rare that is? He looked at her for a long moment. Then he activated his comm. Web to command. The Saren subject requires extended medical observation before transfer. Estimated timeline. Indefinite. Web out. He turned off the comm before they could respond. This is going to cause problems, he said. I know. You're going to cause problems. Probably. He sighed, feeling the weight of another burden settling onto shoulders that were already too tired. Observation deck is off limits after 2,200 hours. Mess hall is open 600 to 2,100. Don't touch anything in engineering. And if anyone from command calls, you're unconscious. Understood, Commander. Marcus, he said, surprising himself. If you're going to be a problem on my ship, you can at least use my name. 3 weeks later, Marcus found Velith in the cargo bay at 300, surrounded by disassembled machinery and covered in lubricant. What the hell are you doing? She looked up, a servo wrench in one hand, and what appeared to be the guts of a water recycler in the other. Your filtration system is inefficient. It wastes 17% of processed water through unnecessary heating cycles. I'm fixing it. That's a military-grade recycler. It's a primitive heating coil attached to a membrane that would embarrass a Saren child. She returned to her work. My people designed environmental systems that could sustain a city for centuries without maintenance. This is adorable. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, watching her work. Her silver hands moved with practiced precision, connecting components, adjusting settings. She'd been awake for less than a month, had lost everything she'd ever known, and here she was improving his ship's plumbing at 3 in the morning. You should be resting. I rested for 1,000 years. She didn't look up. I have had enough rest. He understood that. The inability to sleep, the need to keep moving, keep working, keep doing something so you didn't have to think about everything you'd lost. He'd spent years like that after New Helsinki, filling every moment with tasks and duties, and anything that kept the memories at bay. Can I help? Now she did look up. You want to help me repair a water recycler? I want to understand what you're doing, and I'm not sleeping either, so I might as well be useful. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded to a spot beside her. Sit. Hold this coupling steady while I reconnect the flow regulator. They worked in silence for nearly an hour. Marcus held components, passed tools, and gradually began to understand the elegant efficiency of Saren design. Velith's hands never hesitated. She knew exactly what she was doing, even with human technology she'd never seen before. How do you know how to do this? He asked eventually. I was an engineer. Before. She paused on the word, and he heard 1,000 years of grief compressed into 2 syllables. The Saren did not believe in idle aristocracy. Even the emperor's children learned trades. Mine was systems design. Your royalty? I was the third daughter of a minor house. Hardly royalty. She smiled slightly, though I suppose now I am the Empress of Nothing. A dubious promotion. Empress Velith of the Empty Throne. That has a nice ring to it. She fitted the last component into place and activated the recycler. It hummed to life, smoother and quieter than Marcus had ever heard it. There. 17% more efficient, and it won't rattle like a dying engine anymore. The crew will appreciate that. Will they appreciate me? The question was light, but he heard the weight beneath it. 3 weeks aboard, and most of the crew still didn't know how to act around her. She was alien, ancient, and a walking reminder that civilizations could simply end. Some avoided her. Some stared. A few had been openly hostile. Give them time, Marcus said. Humans are complicated. All intelligent beings are complicated. The difference is that humans seem to embrace it. She began cleaning her tools, methodical and precise. The Saren valued harmony, order, ta. We were raised to suppress discord, to present a unified face to the universe. Perhaps that is why we fell so quickly. We had no practice surviving chaos. And you think humans are better at chaos. I think you are experts at it. She looked at him. You in particular, Commander. I have watched you manage this ship. You bark orders, ignore regulations, and make decisions that would horrify any Saren administrator. And yet, your crew follows you without question. They follow me because I've kept them alive. No, you. They follow you because you see them. Each of them as individuals. You know which ones need strict orders and which ones need trust. You know who is struggling and who is strong. She set down her tools. That is not chaos. That is a different kind of order, one the Saren never mastered. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He'd never thought of his command style as anything but practical. You learned your people or you got them killed. Simple as that. Thank you, he said finally. For fixing the recycler. Thank you for holding the couplings. Will you be repairing anything else tonight? The atmospheric processors in Deck 3 have been bothering me. He sighed, pushed himself to his feet, and held out a hand. To help her up. Show me. The atmospheric processors took 3 hours. By the time they finished, the ship's morning shift was starting, and Marcus had learned more about fluid dynamics than he'd ever expected to. Velith moved through technical concepts like she was reciting poetry, making complex systems seem obvious, elegant. When they finally emerged from the maintenance shaft, Chief Engineer Santos was waiting with crossed arms and a suspicious expression. Commander, did you rewire my atmospheric processors? She did. Marcus nodded to Velith. I supervised. Santos looked at the diagnostic panel, then looked again. Efficiency is up 12%. How? Your flow distribution was suboptimal, Velith said. I redistributed the intake manifolds to reduce turbulence and adjusted the scrubbing cycle timing. Santos stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed, a short, surprised sound. Suboptimal. That's what I've been calling the best we can do with military equipment for 15 years. I meant no offense. None taken. Santos glanced at Marcus. Can she do the engine coolant system next? Ask her yourself. Santos turned to Velith with something that wasn't quite warmth, but was a far cry from the wariness she'd shown before. So, Empress of the Empty Throne. You busy tonight? I am currently unemployed, Velith replied. My schedule is flexible. That was how it started. Within a week, Velith had become an unofficial consultant to the engineering team. Within 2 weeks, she was teaching night classes on Saren design principles to anyone interested. Within a month, the crew stopped calling her the alien and started calling her Vel. Marcus watched it happen with something that felt dangerously close to hope. He found her one evening on the observation deck, Their observation deck now, though neither had acknowledged it, staring at a particular cluster of stars. "That's where my home was," she said without turning. "The Sarin system. Fourth star from the left in that cluster." He stood beside her, following her gaze. "Did you go back?" "Check the records." "I did. There are ruins. Archaeologists have been studying them for centuries." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "They found art. Music. What? Records of our history. They called us a fascinating lost civilization and wrote papers about our architecture." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. They preserved what they could. That's more than most people would do." She turned to face him. "Marcus, I need to ask you something." "Ask. Why did you help me, truly? You risked your career, defied your command. I am a complication you don't need. Why?" He thought about lying, thought about giving her some noble reason about duty or compassion or the sanctity of life. But she'd asked him for honesty once, and he found he couldn't give her less. "Because when you woke up and realized everything was gone, you didn't break. You cried one tear and then you asked questions." He met her amber eyes. "I've seen soldiers shatter over losing a single friend. You lost everything. Your people, your culture, your entire world, and you're still standing. Still fixing recyclers at 300 and teaching night classes and making my crew laugh. That's not strength. That's desperation. Maybe. But it's also courage. And I've been around long enough to recognize it." He paused. "Besides, you're the first person in 20 years who's made this ship feel like something other than a coffin with engines." Velith was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched his hand, just briefly, just a brush of silver fingers against scarred knuckles. "Thank you, Marcus." "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the last Sarin. Not a scientific curiosity. Just me. He didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. They stood together in the dark, watching the stars, two lost souls finding something that might have been peace. The attack came without warning. One moment the Harbinger was cruising through the neutral corridors between Coalition and Frontier space. The next, proximity alarms were screaming and plasma fire was shearing through the hull. "Report!" Marcus barked, running for the bridge with Velith close behind. 3 vessels, unknown configuration. Lieutenant Park shouted over the chaos. They came out of the asteroid field, no engine signatures until they fired. Marcus threw himself into the command chair. The view screen showed sleek, dark ships moving with predatory grace, their weapons tearing into his ship like wolves into prey. "Raiders? Negative. Their tech is too advanced." "Commander, I've never seen ships like these." Marcus was about to order evasive maneuvers when Velith went rigid beside him. "Kethrani," she breathed. "Those are Kethrani vessels." "Who?" "Enemies of the Sarin? We thought we destroyed them in the war, centuries before my time. They were supposed to be extinct." Her face was pale, her amber eyes wide. "Marcus, they're here for me." "Oh." "Somehow they knew I survived." "How is that possible?" "They've been dead for 1,000 years. Clearly they weren't dead enough." Another blast rocked the ship. Sparks flew from a console, and someone screamed in pain. "Commander, shields at 40%. We can't take much more of this." Marcus made a decision. All hands, battle stations. Divert all non-essential power to weapons and shields. Park, target their lead ship. Concentrate fire on their engine section. "Sir, our weapons barely scratch their armor." "Then scratch them until something bleeds." The Harbinger fought back, but it was a destroyer facing warships twice its size with technology centuries ahead of anything in the Coalition arsenal. Within minutes, they'd lost the port engine and half their weapons systems. Commander. Santos' voice crackled through the comm. We've got a hull breach on Deck 5, and the reactor's showing stress fractures. If we take another direct hit to engineering, we're done. Marcus looked at the tactical display. 3 enemy ships, all focused on them, all clearly trying to disable rather than destroy. They wanted Velith alive. They'll board us, Velith said quietly. Disable the ship, kill the crew. Take me back to whatever hole they've been hiding in for the last millennium. Like hell they will. Marcus, listen to me. If I surrender myself, no. If I surrender, they might let your people live. I'm what they want. I'm the last symbol of the Saren. They've been waiting 1,000 years to... I said no. He grabbed her arm, forcing her to face him. You don't get to sacrifice yourself. Not on my ship, not on my watch. Your ship is dying. Then we'll die together. But we don't give up, and we don't hand over our people to the enemy. He turned back to the view screen. Park, how long until Coalition reinforcements can reach us? 40 minutes, sir. We won't last 10. 10 minutes. 10 minutes against ships they couldn't beat, with technology they couldn't match, and a crew that was slowly being torn apart. Velith pulled free of his grip. Marcus, I know Kathrani technology. Their ships were advanced, but they had weaknesses, specific frequencies that could disrupt their shield harmonics. If I can get to engineering, modify your weapons systems. Santos is already overwhelmed down there. Then let me help her. Velith's eyes burned with something fierce. Not fear, not desperation, but determination. I am not helpless. I'm a Saren engineer, and if these bastards think they can destroy my new home after taking my old one, they are deeply mistaken. Marcus hesitated for one heartbeat. Then he nodded. Go. But take Sergeant Hayes for protection. I don't need. That's an order. She met his eyes. For a moment, he saw everything they hadn't said to each other. The long nights working on repairs, the conversations on the observation deck, the fragile trust they'd built over these strange, impossible weeks. Don't die, Commander. Same to you, Empress. She ran. The next 8 minutes were the longest of Marcus's life. The Harbinger shook and groaned under the assault, systems failing one by one, crew members dying at their stations. He directed what remained of their defense, watching the enemy ships circle like sharks, waiting for the killing blow. Then Velith's voice crackled through the comm. Marcus, I need you to concentrate all fire on the lead ship's dorsal section. Everything you have, for exactly 15 seconds. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields. They can now. Trust. He did. God help him, he did. All batteries, target the lead ship, dorsal section. Fire everything on my mark. He watched the targeting display, waited until the angle was right. Mark! The Harbinger unleashed everything it had left. A desperate, concentrated barrage that should have splashed harmlessly against superior shields. Instead, the lead Kathrani ship exploded. The blast tore through space, sending debris spinning in all directions. On the bridge, the crew stared in shock. Direct hit, Commander. Their shields just failed, like they weren't even there. Velith? Marcus called. What did you do? I remembered my history lessons. Her voice was tired but triumphant. The Kathrani shields resonate at specific frequencies. Apply the right counter-frequency, and they become transparent to energy weapons. I modified your plasma cannons to emit that frequency. Can you do it again? Already transmitting the new parameters to your weapons systems. Hit them now while they're confused. Marcus didn't hesitate. All batteries, fire at will. Show these ancient bastards what happens when they attack my ship. The battle turned. Without their shield advantage, the Kathrani ships were suddenly vulnerable, and the Harbinger's crew, pushed to fury by an hour of desperate defense, showed no mercy. The second ship fell within minutes. The third tried to flee, and made it exactly 200 kilometers, before a concentrated barrage tore it apart. When it was over, the bridge was silent, except for the crackle of damaged systems and the quiet moans of the wounded. Commander. Park's voice was hoarse. All enemy vessels destroyed. Marcus sagged in his chair. Damage report? Extensive. We've got hull breaches on 3 decks. The port engine is gone, and we lost. Park's voice cracked. We lost 37 crew members, sir. 37. 37 people who'd been alive an hour ago. 37 families who would get those terrible messages, those folded flags. Get damage control teams moving. Seal the breaches. Stabilize the wounded. And someone find me Velith. He found her first. She was in engineering, collapsed against a console, covered in coolant and blood that wasn't hers. Sergeant Hayes was dead beside her, his body shielding a critical junction from an explosion that had torn through the compartment. He saved my life, she said, when Marcus reached her. He didn't even like me. Thought I was strange, dangerous. But when the panel blew, he just moved. Didn't think about it. Marcus knelt beside her, checking her for injuries. She was bruised, exhausted, trembling, but alive. That's what humans do, he said quietly. We protect our own. I'm not human. You're a crew. He helped her to her feet. On this ship, that's the same thing. She looked at him with those ancient amber eyes, and for a moment, she let herself be weak. She leaned into him, her silver face against his shoulder, and he held her while she shook. I thought I would lose another home, she whispered. I thought I would watch another family die. Not today. Nah, I'm breathing. They stood there in the wreckage of engineering, 2 broken people holding each other up, while the ship groaned around them, and the stars kept their silent watch. The coalition sent a full battle group to escort the Harbinger back to port. They also sent admirals, scientists, and a very annoyed diplomatic corps demanding to know why a simple patrol destroyer had engaged and destroyed 3 vessels of a previously unknown hostile species. Marcus let the admirals rage. He let the scientists swarm over the wreckage. He let the diplomats make their threats and demands. Through it all, he kept Velith at his side and dared anyone to say a word about it. You can't protect her forever, Admiral Chen said during one particularly heated meeting. She's too valuable. The intelligence she has about the Kathrani alone. She saved this ship and everyone on it, Marcus cut in. She's not a resource to be extracted. She's a person. She's an alien. She's my crew. The Admiral stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. You've changed, Webb. 20 years ago you would have handed her over without blinking. 20 years ago I was an idiot. They let him keep her. Marcus was never sure exactly why. Maybe they respected his service record. Maybe they feared the political fallout of forcibly removing the last Saren from the ship she'd helped save. Or maybe someone in command had actually grown a conscience. Whatever the reason, Velith remained aboard the Harbinger as an official consultant on alien technologies and threats. The paperwork was probably ridiculous. He never read it. 6 months later, the ship was repaired, the crew had been reinforced with new faces, and life had settled into something that almost resembled routine. Almost. Marcus found Velith on the observation deck at 200, their time, as the crew had come to call it. She was staring at the stars again, but there was something different in her posture. Something lighter. You're awake early, he said, settling beside her. I had a dream about the old world, my sisters, my workshop, the city I grew up in. She turned to him. It didn't hurt. That's progress. It is. She smiled, a real smile, not the sad echo she'd worn for months. I dreamed about them, and then I woke up on this ship, with these people, in this strange new life. And I realized I was happy. Not instead of grieving, but alongside it. That's how it works. The pain doesn't go away. You just build a life around it. Is that what you did? After New Helsinki? He considered the question. For years, he'd told himself he was just surviving, just going through the motions, waiting for a bullet or a breakdown to finally end it. But somewhere along the way, somewhere in the late-night repairs, and the shared silences, and the slow trust built across 1,000 small moments, that had changed. "I think I was waiting," he said slowly, "waiting for something worth living for. And now?" He looked at her. Silver skin, amber eyes, 1,000 years of loss, and a soul that refused to break. He thought about all the walls he'd built over the years, all the distance he'd maintained from everyone around him. He thought about how easily she'd walked right through them. "I found it," he said. Velith reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cool against his, delicate but strong. "Among my people there was a concept called Valeth Su. It doesn't translate well. The closest words would be soul anchor. Someone who holds you to the world when everything else falls away. That sounds like a lot of responsibility." It is. The Saren believed that such bonds were rare, perhaps one in a lifetime if you were fortunate. They were not romantic. Not exactly. Not familial either. Something else. Something deeper. Marcus thought about the word. Soul anchor. Something that held you to the world when everything else fell away. "When I woke up from the cryopod," Velith continued, "I was certain I would never find another Valeth Su. My last one, my eldest sister, died 1,000 years ago. I thought that part of me had died with her. And now?" She squeezed his hand. "Now I think the universe has a strange sense of humor. 1,000 years of sleep, and I wake up to find another anchor waiting. A grumpy, scarred human who can't sleep and drinks too much, and has the worst taste in music I have ever encountered. My music taste is fine. You listen to something called death metal, at volumes that could shatter glass. It's relaxing." She laughed, a real laugh, warm and bright, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been frozen for a very long time. "Marcus Webb," she said, her voice soft now, serious. "I am going to tell you something, and you are going to listen without interrupting. Can you do that?" "I can try. When I first woke up, I wanted to die. I didn't say it, didn't show it, but every night I lay in that medical bed and wished I had stayed frozen. What was the point of surviving when everything I loved was dust?" He started to speak. She held up a hand. "Then you came to see me. Every day. You didn't say much. You're terrible at comfort, you know that. But you were there. You sat with me while I cried. You answered my questions honestly, even the painful ones. You treated me like a person when everyone else treated me like a specimen. Interrupting." He closed his mouth. "I started living again because of you. Not because you saved me or protected me or gave me shelter. Because you saw me. The real me. Not the last Saren. Not the tragic survivor. Not the scientific curiosity. Just Velith. Just a lost woman trying to find her footing in a universe that had moved on without her." She turned to face him fully, her amber eyes luminous in the starlight. "You are my Valeth Su, Marcus Webb. You are the anchor that holds me to this world. And I know humans don't have a concept for this. I know you might not feel the same way, but I needed you to know. After everything we've survived, you deserve to know." The silence stretched between them. Marcus had never been good with words, had never been able to express the things that mattered most. But standing there, holding her hand, he tried. "When I was young," he said carefully, "my father told me that love was like gravity. You can't see it, can't touch it, but it shapes everything. Pulls things together that shouldn't fit. Creates orbits out of chaos. That's surprisingly poetic for a man who listens to death metal. I have hidden depths. He squeezed her hand. I don't know what I feel. I'm not sure I remember how to feel anything real anymore. But I know that when you're around, the weight is easier to carry. I know that this ship stopped being a coffin the day you woke up. I know that if someone came to take you away, I would burn down the galaxy to get you back. That also sounds like a lot of responsibility. Maybe. But I've carried worse for less. He pulled her closer, carefully, giving her the space to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. I don't know if I can be what you need, Vela. I'm broken in ways I don't even understand anymore. But if you're willing to anchor yourself to a wreck like me, I'll spend whatever time I have left trying to be worthy of it. You already are. She leaned into him, her silver head resting against his shoulder, her cool fingers intertwined with his. They stood together watching the stars, the same stars that had watched her empire rise and fall, that had witnessed 1,000 years of silence, that now bore witness to something small and fragile and absolutely precious. So what happens now? She asked eventually. Now we keep flying. Keep fixing recyclers at 300 teaching night classes and annoying the admirals. We do the work, live the life, and see where the current takes us. Together, together. Outside the observation deck, the universe sprawled in all its terrible vastness, infinite, indifferent, filled with wonders and horrors beyond counting. Empires rose and fell, species flourished and vanished, and the stars kept their eternal watch over it all. But here, in this small pocket of warmth and light, two lost souls had found something worth holding on to. Not a romance, not quite. Not a friendship either. Something older and deeper and harder to name. A bond that had survived 1,000 years of sleep, a battle against impossible odds, and all the small moments in between. Velith, last daughter of a dead empire, had found a new home. Marcus, tired soldier of a weary war, had found a reason to keep fighting. And together, anchored to each other against the vast and empty dark, they faced the future. Not without fear, not without doubt, but not alone. Never again alone.